The Choose Your Legends 6 banner is out now, and I've gotten a chance to test out all the new units and skills. Last video I went through most of the available info, so there will be some repeating here, but there were still some questions I had and wanted to figure out. That's what this video is for. With that said, our Brave hero lineup for year 6 is Brave Byleth, Seliph, Tiki, and Chrom. Last year we had some neat utility gimmicks introduced, but this year we're back to 4 pretty combative based units. As always, everyone gets one CYL6 hero to pick for free, but for those summoning more, we also have 4 sparks available. You can only spark each hero one time. If you were to summon 120 times for 3 sparks, you can use your free pick on the 4th hero, or if you're chasing merges, that's 2 copies guaranteed. Up first is Brave Byleth, who is wearing the Sothis Regalia DLC outfit from 3 houses. Should be pretty obvious that this is basically just Sothis' clothing, and Byleth will be a colorless flying mage. Unsurprisingly, CYL6 is ushering in Gen 7 base stat totals. For flying mages, the BST was 166 to 168 in the last gen, but it's going to crank that up to 173, which I think might be the upper limit here. For her stats, she has 39 HP, 41 attack, 43 speed, 26 defense, and 24 res. Byleth has an attack super boon, which is nice, and there aren't too many super boons going around this year. For old skills, Byleth's going to come with attack and speed catch 4 and speed and res hold, which is the tier 4 range skill that just increases their range to 3 spaces. For the most part though, Byleth is stacking attack and speed all for her own benefits. Her tome is the Inner Wellspring, which accelerates special trigger. At start of turn, if unit is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant the no follow-up status and times pulse. That is to say, Byleth neutralizes any skills that prevent her follow-up attacks or grants the enemy follow-up attacks. She also gets -1 cooldown if her special is at its max value each turn. Now if Byleth initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, she gets +5 doll stats, and if her special triggers before or during combat, she gets -1 cooldown after combat. Inner Wellspring is a solid weapon, ranged flyers can't get no follow-up skills, and Byleth gets a ton of cooldown reduction. Not only does she have times pulse, if her special procs in battle, she gets -1 cooldown after to recharge it. This is going to be vital because Byleth has a unique 2 cooldown special called Divine Pulse. It boosts damage by 25% of her speed stat and also reduces damage from the foe's next attack by 75%. Additionally, Byleth's next attack deals true damage equal to 20% of her speed stat. So, with Inner Wellspring, Divine Pulse is charged every single player phase. Byleth can initiate with it, and she gains 75% damage reduction when the enemy counters back. Extremely important detail to understand, Divine Pulse is not like Vital Astra. It does not specify itself as a non-special source of % damage reduction, and thus, it is not affected by the usual damage reduction counters. Deadeye, Young Innis's Bow, Lethality, etc. Those do not work against Divine Pulse. Think of it like this, Fjord's Ice Mirror is a defensive special, but it also grants damage for her counterattack. Divine Pulse is kinda the reverse of this. I was thinking Brave Byleth was more like a Claude with Fallen Star, or maybe Brave Marianne, who also has 70% DR for herself. However, Divine Pulse in terms of damage reduction is way better this way. It's going to get crazier though, because Byleth has another inheritable B skill, Speed Preempt 3. Inflict -4 speed on the foe during combat at all times. Then if a ranged foe initiates and the user has more speed than the enemy, you can counter before their first attack. This excludes savior triggers. We can now confirm Speed Preempt is inheritable by any ranged unit. Now that is interesting. If you can outspeed the foe, you get advantage against ranged threats. This is potentially a skill super high damage units can run to counter other offensive squishies. The good old Vantage one-hit KO threat. However, the catch is the speed check. If you get outsped, no advantage for you, which means you're pretty much in trouble probably. There was also Hardy Bearing still available, and damage reduction just in general can stop Vantage one-shots, so things are not that simple nowadays. Regardless, Speed Preempt is something to keep an eye on. If a ranged nuker can disable damage reduction or have a special ready for the Vantage hit, then this might be a skill to consider. Tying everything together, Brave Byleth is going to be quite annoying. Colorless Flying Mage means she can fly over terrain to get to targets fast, and Byleth has a ton of attack and speed to put the hurt on. She's going to pre-charge Divine Pulse, proc it on hit number 1, gain 75% DR, you cannot stop, and then she has no follow-up to attack again, this time with even more damage. After combat, she then gets -1 cooldown to recharge Divine Pulse. At this point, if a ranged foe were to attack Byleth, Speed Preempt kicks in with Vantage. Divine Pulse procs, she gets 75% DR, and the cycle continues over and over. Very fitting theme for Byleth and Sothis. While Byleth gains a ton of damage reduction, she is not super tanky innately. Plus 5 defense and res is very helpful with her balanced stat spread, and she does have no follow-up, so this is kind of similar to Legend and Claude. Byleth's base kit stacks attack and speed in all 3 slots, and that is kind of what you want to keep doing though. For her Sacred Seal, you're going to want more attack and speed from Solo, Form, or even Blade Session. Byleth can hang back thanks to Preempt Grinding Advantage and thus Divine Pulse, but you can definitely take an offensive approach to her build. For one, Attack and Speed Oath 4 not only can compete with Speed and Res host debuffs, but it grants Warping as well. That would be a fine substitute. With the 75% DR, you could run a Tier 4 Smoke for even more enemy phase power with Dodge. Defense Res Smoke 3 for Pathfinder is also an option. If you wanted to become a Wings of Mercy beacon, maybe swap in Fury or Push 4 skills. Now, if you aren't feeling Preempt is being useful, since Byleth is still very open and weak to melee threats, you could run Far Trace to gain Kanto. Maybe that lets you get out of harm's way. While 75% DR is very large, Byleth will still take decent damage, and I wouldn't exactly rely on her to tank crazy amounts of hits. She cannot build full tank because she needs speed for Preempt to even activate. For the same reason, Iota Shield may not be worth the trade-off in speed from the Sacred Seal slot. I also don't think going for close counter plus regular advantage is worth it either, but hey, maybe a super invested Byleth can pull it off. Overall, Brave Byleth is definitely good. No follow-up and 75% damage reduction go a long way to make her harder to KO. She will also have decent damage if she follows up, because there's a chance for 2 divine procs if guard is not in play. Something to watch out for is Brave attacks. If Byleth's advantage proc does in one shot, a Brave weapon can definitely KO her on the second hit. Regardless though, lots of fun to be had here. Our next unit is Brave Seliph. He's dressed like his father Sigurd and definitely takes after his dad with his skills. It's a little repetitive, but Seliph is once again a sword cavalier. Don't worry though, he is very different from his legendary ult. From Gen 6 melee cavaliers, they hovered around 173 to 175 BST. Seliph bumps that up to 179. For stats, he has 40 HP, 43 attack, 41 speed, 37 defense, and 18 res. Seliph has speed and defense super boons. Both are pretty good options, along with just more attack. Like a lot of offensive cavaliers, Seliph sacrifices resistance for more physical bulk, but he does have a way to handle magic damage threats. For old skills, Seliph's going to come with Luna and low speed and defense 3. Seliph doesn't really need near trace for Kanto or flow B skills, so the classic lows are a solid consistent option for him. Seliph's base kit will revolve around movement, so I want to start with his unique C skill, Hair to Light. At start of turn, if Seliph is within 2 spaces of an ally, he gets plus 6 attack and speed, the no follow-up status, and plus 1 movement. Very simple self-buff that gives Seliph all the things he wants. No follow-up in particular is very vital for offensive units, and like his dad, Seliph will join in on the 4 movement fun. One thing to note, Seliph has to start the turn near allies, so you shouldn't leave him off completely alone. For his weapon, Holy Tide Turfing, it has 16 might, accelerates special trigger, and grants Kanto 2. If Seliph or the foe initiates combat after moving to a different space, grant plus 5 to all stats, deal true damage per hit equal to the number of spaces moved by whoever is initiating, times 10% of the foe's defense stat. Max of 40% for 4 movement. Additionally, if Seliph has more than 25% HP at start of combat, he can survive a fatal blow and be left on 1 HP. Very important note for Seliph, either he or the enemy must move at least 1 space for the entire weapon to activate. If Seliph attacks in place, you do not get anything but faster specials and Kanto. If Seliph is baited into a foe's attack range who does not need to move, Holy Tide Turfing does nothing. The 4 movement can bite him in the butt here if you're planning a defense team. I did some testing, and warping will count toward a moving X amount of spaces. This is a good interaction since an enemy Wings Immersing in will also activate this. For the true damage part of this weapon, this could make Seliph quite a solid tank buster, kind of like the Alms. If he moves 4 spaces, 40% of a high defense tank can easily rack up, especially since it's per attack. Seliph has no follow-up to attack twice, so double the true damage. You then have the Miracle effect, which turns Seliph into a very reckless attacker. Who needs guard when you can straight up tank any instant bonfire proc and always survive? If Seliph doesn't get doubled by a major dragon, you can just tank a magic blast to the face. Speed is very important for defense for the Seliph, but Brave attacks or Harmonic Capture's Triangle attack can break through. Those are things to watch for before you send Seliph fully in. For Seliph's inheritable A skill, he brings attack and speed clash 4. If unit or foe initiates combat after moving to a different space, grant bonus to attack speed during combat equal to X plus 6, with X being the number of spaces moved by the user or the enemy. Additionally, if X is 2 or higher, you neutralize attack speed penalties. So Clash 4 is a brand new A-skilled line. It functions similarly to Holy Tide Turfing and is inheritable by all non-armor melee units. Like Turfing, this weapon is mixed phase, but the user or the enemy needs to move at least one space. If they attack in place, the skill does not work. Clash 4 can reach plus 10 attack at speed, but you're gonna need to move 4 spaces. Seems unlikely for most units. However, like we mentioned, warping does count, so maybe not a bad skill for Wings of Mercy. You fly in from across the whole map, you get 10 attack and speed, and you're gonna neutralize attack and speed debuffs. Now, since this works for dragons and beasts, this could be an interesting option for Lilith. She can literally teleport to her support partner from anywhere. Will Clash 4 overtake Catch 4? Maybe. For Seliph and Sigurd, who have innate 4 movement, seems very fitting for them, but really a lot of units can run this skill to decent effect. The thing is, you need to be on the move, or the enemy needs to be moving. Like I mentioned, if you bait the enemy team too close toward you, you may not have to move, which is actually bad for Clash. The attack and speed deal with neutralization can be very clutch, so maybe this does become a top tier option. In general, I do believe Brave Seliph is going to be a strong sword cav just like his dad. The 4 movement, Kanto 2, no follow up, true damage scaling with higher defense foes, and literally just not dying thanks to Miracle. That is going to be annoying for sure. Like with Brave Byleth, there is some pressure to stack speed because if the enemy only attacks you once, they literally cannot one round Seliph. Brave attacks can punch through, but with 4 movement, it's a bit tough to actually reach this guy first, and that first Brave hit has to literally take Seliph to 1 HP. In general, while Seliph's kit technically is mixed phase, obviously you want to abuse his 4 movement to go attack first. It's risky, but with Miracle you can literally not worry about instant specials, and you can get off 2 attacks with the extra true damage versus tanks. Seliph has low speed and defense, which is great, and Luna can also proc in 1 round. If you want, Heavy Blade and Gale Force is totally fine here. You can also run it with Desperation if you're just sending Seliph in on 1 HP afterwards. In fact, Seliph might be a really great Wings of Mercy beacon thanks to Miracle and Kanto for repositioning. If you don't want to play recklessly on 1 HP, Seliph can run Wind or Water Sweep. Miracle is powerful, but now the enemy can't even hit back, and he has no follow-up to attack twice. Super annoying to deal with, and since he retains his HP for Miracle. If you want to take a more player phase heavy approach, consider Surge Sparrow. Holy Tide Turfing's Miracle requires 25% HP. Surge Sparrow's 1 cooldown special heals for 30% max HP. Unlike a double Mystic Boost build, you always heal back to at least 30% HP, and that can matter when HP blessings are in play. Some issues with this is Seliph doesn't have no guard, and Surge Sparrow is player phase only. However, it might be better for longer fights if you can keep initiating, survive your Miracle, then heal back to 30%. Wings of Mercy dancers can facilitate a full-on 1-turn assault in this manner. This would also be a more solid idea if Cavaliers got a no guard B skill. That could also lead into another plus for Seliph, which is his B skill can honestly be anything. It's the slot with the most playstyle defining effects, so future Cavalry B skills might end up as top options. Personally, I feel like Brave Seliph is sort of the best all-around unit in this banner. He is plug and play, he has 4 movement with Kanto 2, a strong Miracle effect, and some couple interesting builds to choose from. I think he's a solid unit, and I'm really not looking forward to dealing with that Miracle ability. Our third unit is going to be Brave Adult Tiki. To make things more confusing, she's wearing her old clothes from when she was younger. Brave Tiki is going to be a green infantry dragon. You can now run all colors of dragon Tikis if you want. For her Gen 6 BST for our melee infantry units, the bar was around 182 to 183. I listed dragons here, but this applies to sword, lance, axe, and beast infantry as well. We had 2 trainees in Gen 6, one was Legendary Fae, the other Atlas. Both of them hit 187 or 188 BST, and that's the baseline for Gen 7 melee infantry. If we get a Gen 7 trainee armor unit this year, we're gonna crest the 200 BST line. I guess it's just gonna keep going up and up. Now, back to Brave Tiki. For stats, she has 40 HP, 43 attack, 27 speed, 37 defense, and 41 res. The only slow unit in this batch, but Tiki is beefy with lots of attack, defense, and res. She has a res super boon, which may be worth taking as Tiki has 2 res checking abilities. For old skills, Tiki comes with Glimmer and Defensive Res Menace. Dragons can make use of Defensive Res Menace since they have adaptive damage versus ranged foes, but Tiki doesn't have hard defense checks like Myrrh. The +6 defense field buff will be handy though, but again, it's really the res advantages that you're going to want for Tiki. For her weapon, Tiki has Remote Breath, 60 might, accelerated specials, and effective against dragons. If Tiki is within 3 spaces of any ally, she gets +5 to all stats, a free follow-up attack. If her attack can trigger special, she gets -1 cooldown before her first attack, and if the foe's attack triggers special and Tiki has 5 more res than them, she inflicts +1 cooldown to the foe before their first attack. Extra stats, faster specials, and a free follow-up, all good stuff. However, Tiki comes with 2 cooldown mechanics that are both quite strong. The first of them is like dual Young Ike. If you run an offensive special like Glimmer, Tiki gets -1 cooldown before she attacks. Glimmer is on 1 cooldown, so Tiki always charges then procs Glimmer on her first hit. There is no way to stop this as far as I know unless you fight another Brave Tiki. This is because of her second effect. Enemies lose 1 cooldown before their first attack, which means pre-charged specials will uncharge. That is a potentially very strong ability, and I don't believe anyone else does this yet. You do need to win a res check by 5 or more, so stacking res is important, but against very offensive units who have lower res, this should just always be active. Remote Breath is very cool, and if you rely on a pre-charged special too much like Brave Byleth, then Tiki can really mess you up. I did do some testing of Brave Tiki versus Brave Tiki. She always gets the -1 cooldown before attacking, but if one of those Tikis had 5 more res, they're going to inflict the +1 cooldown. This will cancel out the -1 cooldown and nothing really happens. The same deal works for Dual Ike. Instead of -2 cooldown for his Aether, Tiki can make it only -1. For additional testing I can confirm it does not charge defensive specials, but it does charge AoE specials. That could be interesting. Moving on, we have New Divinity, Tiki's unique B skill. At start of combat, if she has more than 25% HP, inflict -5 attack and res on the foe and grant Dragon Wall 3. Up to 40% damage reduction if Tiki has 10 or more res than the enemy. Additionally, if Tiki is above 40% HP, she prevents a follow-up attack. New Divinity is a horde of defensive perks. Even if attackers can get by the follow-up prevention, Tiki has damage reduction and she's stacking a ton of res. 41 base, +5 from her weapon, and this skill inflicts -5 on the foe. You then have Defensive Res Menace for potentially more of a res difference. While these defensive abilities have counters, if you cannot bypass them, then you're going to be in big trouble. Tiki gets even more power from her new inheritable A skill, Attack and Res Finish 4. If unit is within 3 spaces of an ally, grant +7 attack and res, and if unit special is ready or is triggered before or during combat, deal +5 damage except on AoE specials, and you're going to heal 7 HP when attacking. Finish 4 is also a new skill line, so you're going to have to take all 4 tiers from this Tiki. Additionally, it's also inventory only. I would say this is a pretty cool new A skill. The 3 space condition is stupid easy to fulfill, and you get +7 attack and res just for that. What makes Finish 4 special is its 5 true damage per hit and 7 HP healing per hit. To get those effects, you're going to need to basically have your special charged, or it has to proc in combat. Luckily, the special proc itself benefits from the 5 damage and 7 HP, so that's really nice. This skill does work with defensive specials and AoE specials. As long as those specials are charged, you get the 5 damage and 7 healing during combat. We can't slap Finish 4 on hardy fighter army units, but maybe you could find a use for a shield pulse build. In general, if you can have your special ready, then when it's your turn to attack, this could be a good new A skill. Someone mentioned Legendary Corrin. Finish 4 gives her sustain in the A slot, which she needs, and now you can still run the DC Sacred Seal. There's potential for super sustain by pairing this skill with Bulwark, and Brave weapons and follow-up attacks in general can double dip into more damage and more healing. High-res units like Rayleigh Marianne or Guinevere could run this since they have sustain in their weapons as well. There's also the other Dragon Wall users, since this is the attack and res variant. I honestly really like this skill, even if it is a bit special dependent. Brave Tiki is looking like a beefy green dragon, but she has a lot of solid perks in her kit. You can have Omni Breaker, effectively +10 to all stats except speed. You have Dragon Wall damage reduction, and finally the 2 cooldown abilities. Being able to uncharge a pre-charge special is worth taking note of. Literally on this banner, Brave Byleth lives and dies by Divine Pulse. Well, Tiki can just uncharge Divine Pulse, and that leaves Byleth vulnerable to an instant Glimmer. By always proccing Glimmer, she then activates Attack and Res Finish for more damage and healing. You then have all the bonus res stacking for Dragon Wall, and the res check on Remote Breath. Tiki's kit is pretty dang good. If the foe cannot KO her with a non-special hit, she can fire off Glimmer or Moonbow. You also can perfectly slot in the new Distant Counter Sacred Seal and not lose out on much. There are some openings if the foe can double Tiki. They can charge and proc a special on their second hit, but this is where Glimmer comes in. If someone like Brave Erica tries to get her special on her second hit, Tiki fires off Glimmer and overpowers Erica before it can happen. My Young Innis gets trashed here since his Ruptured Sky gets uncharged, and he also is open to a DC Glimmer proc. Legendary Byleth cannot instantly one-shot with Sublime Heaven, and you may need to tank a DC counter as well. If you don't run Distant Counter, you may also just want to use something like Guard from a tier 3 dual stance. If Tiki gets doubled, she may prevent low cooldown specials from reactivating. There was also Unity for the res checking purpose against D-Boss. Personally, I feel like Divator's Menace is not core for Tiki, but it's a nice skill to have. It can give her player phase power, and Tiki has her own follow-ups to make it happen. Pulse Smoke could be annoying to further mess with special cooldown, but Tiki can also take Times Pulse. While Glimmer is really fun, we could upgrade to Iceberg. 2 cooldown would be 1 with Times Pulse. Then Tiki could initiate, charge Iceberg, and proc it immediately. Without Times Pulse, if she takes a hit, she could also have it ready to counter with. In fact, you could even go for Glacies, maybe run Warding Breath or don't, but there are some very interesting combinations here. Overall, Brave Tiki is an interesting dragon. She has some core defensive type abilities, but her special charging and uncharging mechanics are quite good. You then have the new Finish A skill and perfectly paired it with the DC Sacred Seal for dragons. Honestly, that alone makes Tiki fun to use against whoever. While she is still susceptible to falchions, you got damage reduction, and Tiki can have offensive pressure herself. Remember, that 1 cooldown Glimmer is gonna proc if she initiates, and she has some speed with a free follow-up to deal with slower tanks. You could build into more speed as well. For the most part though, Brave Tiki is the most tank-like in this batch of Braves. Last up, it's your boy Brave Chrom, already terrorizing the game with an ult this year. Can he do it again? His Brave attire is basically his Great Lord class, sweet Fire Emblem shield included. Chrom threw Falchion into the trash, and he's picked up a lance he found who knows where. He will be a Lance Cavalier this time, and we already saw the new melee Cabs BST. Chrom hits 179 and is pretty much copying Seliph. 41 HP, 42 attack, 42 speed, 37 defense, and 17 res. Chrom is our only lucky winner of the attack and speed super boon combo. For old skills, Chrom is bringing Surge Sparrow. You gotta bring your own special though. He also has speed and defense near Trace. Kanto and Cavalry basically go hand in hand at this point. For his new lance, Chrom has Gairdrifle, 16 might, accelerated specials, and is effective against armor units. If Chrom initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, he gets plus X to all stats, reduces the first attack he takes by 40%, and if a bonus is active on him, he gets plus 1 special cooldown charge per every action. Relatively simple weapon, but calculating X can get a little messy. X is going to be equal to the number of bonuses or penalties active on Chrom times 2. Then you add plus 5 at the end. So like everyone else on this banner, Chrom gets at least plus 5 to all stats. However, this X value can scale as high as you can reach. It has no cap. The big thing to remember is that it does not include field buffs or debuffs, which means we have to rely on status effects. As an example, if Chrom has 1 bonus on him and he had 1 penalty on him, he is going to get plus 9 to all stats. Obviously, this stat boost can get out of hand, but it requires an insane amount of planning, and most likely it's an impractical setup. Still, something like plus 9 or plus 11 to all stats is very possible, and that's a big boost for Chrom. He does have 40% damage reduction, so his low base res is not as detrimental, but still, Chrom would prefer to not take magic damage. While you do not need to stack crazy amounts of statuses, Chrom does want 1 bonus, and this can be a field buff too. He needs it to activate his special charge, and it's a breath type cooldown effect, which is really strong in a Cavalier. You don't need Heavy Blade here. For his unique assist skill, Chrom has a Fate Changed, the sequel of To Change Fate. Basically, it does the exact same thing. Chrom repositions an ally and gets to move again. However, instead of +6 attack, he now borrows any bonuses active on the ally he moved. Do note that he also gives himself isolation, and you cannot gain field buffs if that ally is panicked. Just in general, I feel like I don't have to explain why to change fate on a Chrom with through movement does not sound fun to face. If you're controlling Chrom though, this is a crazy ability. The fact Brave Chrom can now take any new bonus introduced in the future makes him very interesting. Who knows what crazy stuff can happen, and it's only on one unit, then Chrom can just borrow it for himself. Currently though, there are tons of strong statuses to take. He can take +1 movement, dominance, no follow, bonus doubler, any resonance buffs, pathfinder, and on and on. In addition to the bonus Chrom borrows, field buffs included, that isolation penalty actually goes toward more stats for his lance. That's why I said +9 or +11 to all stats is honestly very doable. As a reminder, even though Chrom has near trace for Kanto, the extra action from a fate change will be used first. He gets to save Kanto for his next action. Oh boy. For his inheritable C skill, Chrom brings infantry speed tactic. At start of turn, grant +6 speed to all allies within 2 spaces, and if you're an infantry ally, they also get no follow-up as a status. This is powerful, but you must meet the tactics condition of 2 or less of each movement type on your team at once. This wasn't hard to meet when we had 4-man teams were the norm in like Arena, but Aether raids especially can make this condition a bit tougher. If you're going to go over 3 of the same movement type, then they all get nothing. Now, infantry speed tactic can be inherited by anyone just like tactic boss. It also requires speed tactic 3 and is basically the tier 4 tactic upgrade. I'm kind of disappointed with this tier 4 direction they went with. For one, the +6 speed buff is the base speed tactic 3. The only upgrade is for infantry units, and technically it power creeps the recent infantry no follow-up, but only if you have 2 or less infantry units. Tactic buffs were all about bringing a varied team comp, so focusing on one type for the tier 4 upgrade is super awkward. It's a weird decision if you ask me. Now, the reason Chrom has this is not because he's a nice guy, it's because he can use a fate change to steal that +6 speed and no follow-up status for himself. Interesting dynamic, but it does lead into one condition to think about when you're going to be using Brave Chrom. What I'm talking about is that while Brave Chrom is a fine unit by himself, he does require the most setup out of the 3 CYL winners. Unlike Byleth or Seliph, he does not innately get no follow-up. He has to borrow it via infantry speed tactic and a fate change. He also needs 1 bonus for his cooldown reduction, so Chrom has to get help in some way. Chrom is good, but compared to Brave Erica from last year, you have to actively plan more to make him excel. Erica can literally just initiate, and for special procs, it's probably game over a lot of the time. Similar ideal for Byleth and Seliph, they are ready to go with extremely easy activation conditions. Seliph and Erica also have Kanto 2 on their weapons, while Chrom's gonna have to use near trace. The strength of Brave Chrom is that he definitely has the most potential due to being able to just take any status for himself. That is on top of repositioning into another action, and everyone knows how annoying to change fate already is. Now it's on a 3 movement unit. Just imagine Chrom is with Brave Seliph though. You can get no follow-up and 4 movement just like that, and now there's 2 guys just sprinting it right at you. With that in mind, you don't need to keep infantry speed tactic if you have other ways to provide status effects. Leeching off Seliph is a good idea, and that could let Chrom run something like Sweet Smoke 4 for more dodge, or maybe Rouse attack at speed 4, you can get no panic that way. While stacking more status effects is fun for more stats, I would not make it your main goal. You just want high quality effects like no follow-up and 1 movement. Now since Chrom has Surge Sparrow and more cooldown, I think Luna's a good special option here. He can proc it through guard, or you just counter with it immediately. You could also do Aether, but I don't think it's necessary if you got Surge Sparrow. You could swap to Attack and Speed Catch or the new Clash 4. For example, Chrom is a fine Gale Forcer, and that does nothing with Surge Sparrow. If you want Chrom to be a bit more powerful without relying on certain bonuses, you can replace Kanto for Flow Guard. You're going to get offensive no follow-up without needing to worry with the statuses, and this is mainly just to brute force a path after you use a fate changed. For some other big plays, you could run Wings of Mercy, just fly in, reposition, then Chrom has 3 movement from where he is. Personally, I would say if you just want a powerhouse Lance Cavalier without needing a lot of thinking, Brave Erica is easier to use. No guard, no follow-up, Kanto, dual effectiveness, and a ton of burst on that special proc. She works perfectly with Surge Sparrow too. For Brave Chrom to shine, it's all about how you use a fate change. Do you have strong statuses for Chrom to copy? How practical is your team comp to achieve that setup? And then you actually need to execute correctly. Obviously, it's proven to be extremely strong from Legendary and Duo Chrom. Another action is just too good. That will be it for this banner breakdown. Even more discussion about our CYL6 heroes, and I learned some new info after getting to see these units in game. Upcoming soon, we have a Grand Hero battle for Gerald. Gonna be honest, this guy got treated extremely well. I think a lot of people are going to be very happy to use him. That will be my next video, so stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and good luck on your summons.